Byeon Seok has become one of the most talked about faces in K-dramas, but behind the fame, there are criticisms, controversies, and doubts that many people ignore. In this video, you will discover what is really happening with his career, even before any major scandal. Byeon Seok was already starting to draw attention, but not exactly for the reasons he would have liked. It all began with something seemingly simple: his public appearances. At events, fan meetings, and especially at airports, which in Korea function almost as showcases for celebrities, his behavior began to be analyzed much more closely. And that's when the first signs of discomfort emerged. Some fans started commenting that he seemed too distant. Interactions were quick, eye contact was almost non-existent at times, and his posture was more closed off than expected for someone on the rise. In the beginning, many people brushed it off. After all, an actor's routine can be exhausting. Fatigue, pressure, packed schedules, all of that takes a toll. However, over time, these small moments began to repeat themselves. And when something repeats on the internet, it becomes a pattern. Clips began to circulate. Compilations were made showing these attitudes, and what were once isolated comments turned into a growing narrative. He seems cold. He doesn't like fans. He's already changed because of fame. The situation escalated to the point of dividing opinions. On one side, fans defended him, saying he was just shy or reserved. On the other, people said it was a lack of charisma. Something serious for someone whose image depends so much on connecting with the public. The problem is that, in this type of industry, perception is everything. And even without any controversial statements or explicit mistakes, Byeon Seok's image began to suffer a silent wear and tear. It wasn't an immediate cancellation. It was worse than that. It was the beginning of a doubt. And when the public starts to doubt who you are off camera, any subsequent situation carries much more weight than it should, and that is exactly what happened. Because the next controversy wouldn't be based on interpretation, it would be something concrete, and it would take his name far beyond internet criticism. If before the criticisms involving Byeon Seok were still in the realm of interpretation, now the situation would change to a completely different level. And it all happened in a place that, for Korean idols and actors, is almost a stage: the airport. During one of his appearances, what should have been just another common moment, with fans waiting, photos being taken, and the press recording everything, ended up transforming into one of the biggest controversies of his career. The reason wasn't exactly a direct action by the actor, but rather the behavior of his security team. Reports quickly began to surface on social media. Fans claimed that the bodyguards were acting aggressively, blocking views, pushing people, and creating a completely unnecessary environment of tension. Journalists also joined the discussion, alleging they had difficulty even doing their jobs. Videos began to circulate, and when the images appeared, they could no longer be ignored. The movement seemed exaggerated, the protection disproportionate, and what should have been mere organization turned into something many described as intimidation. The backlash was immediate. Netizens began to criticize not only the team but also Byeon Seok himself, because, even if he wasn't directly involved in the actions, to the public, he was the center of it all. It was his name that was being protected in that manner. And that's when the situation took an even more serious turn. The case didn't stay just on the internet. The controversy advanced to the point of involving legal measures. The security team ended up being penalized, and the episode gained even more visibility when comments from authorities began to circulate, criticizing the exaggeration of the situation. This completely changed the weight of the controversy. From something discussed in comments, it became a concrete case, with real consequences, and his image felt the impact. Because at that moment, the narrative stopped being, maybe he's cold, and became, there's something wrong around him. And when that kind of perception sets in, even if you aren't directly responsible, it's almost impossible not to be affected. After the airport controversy, Byeon Seok tried to move forward and focus on what actually built his career: acting. But the timing couldn't have been worse, because it was exactly at this moment that much more direct criticisms began to emerge, and this time, they were impossible to ignore. With his new projects gaining visibility, part of the public began to question his performance. Comments saying his acting was emotionless, limited, or even generic, started appearing more frequently. And the problem wasn't just the criticism itself, but the way it spread. Unlike the first controversies, which still left room for interpretation, here the attack was direct. His talent was being called into question. And in the K-drama industry, where competition is extremely high, this can be devastating. Many netizens began comparing Byeon Seok to other actors of the same generation, saying he wasn't at the same level yet. Some even suggested he was getting big roles more for his looks and popularity than for his acting ability. At the same time, fans came to his defense, arguing that he was evolving and that the criticisms were exaggerated. But when a negative narrative gains momentum, the defense rarely has the same reach, and that is exactly what happened. What was once just a phase of natural career growth began to be seen as a possible limit, as if he had reached the peak of what he could deliver. And this created a dangerous effect. Any new performance began to be analyzed with even more rigor, almost as if the audience were waiting for a mistake. This type of pressure changes everything, because the actor is no longer trying to impress, he is trying to prove that he isn't what they are saying. And that is an extremely difficult position to maintain. In the end, what this phase showed wasn't just a momentary critique, but the beginning of something bigger, a wear and tear of image that was no longer just from external controversies, but was now directly hitting the foundation of his career. And when that happens, recovery is no longer simple and starts to depend on every next step. While criticisms about his career and behavior were still echoing, another type of attention began to grow around Byeon Seok, his love life. And as happens with practically every rising actor in Korea, it didn't take long for rumors to start surfacing. The curious thing is that, unlike other names in the industry who end up involved in scandals or direct exposure, his case was the opposite: mystery. Byeon Seok has always maintained an extremely discreet stance when it comes to relationships. No public confirmation, no suspicious appearances, nothing that could be used as concrete proof. But on the internet, an absence of information also becomes fuel. Fans began to analyze interactions with co-stars in interviews, behind the scenes, and events. Longer gazes, unscripted laughter, moments of chemistry that seemed to go beyond acting. Small details were clipped, edited, and turned into theories. Some of these rumors gained significant traction, especially when he starred alongside popular actresses. Speculations arose about possible involvements, secret couples, and even narratives of hidden relationships to protect his career. Nothing was confirmed, and perhaps that is the most important point, because his silence, instead of ending the rumors, ended up amplifying everything. For some fans, this is a sign of professionalism and respect for privacy. For others, it seems like a strategy, or even a way to avoid dealing with the subject. This division of perception keeps the topic always alive, and in an industry where an actor's romantic image directly influences their popularity, any suspicion can generate intense reactions, from support to rejection. In Byeon Seok's case, relationships were never a real scandal, but they were never a neutral subject either. They exist in an undefined space where nothing is confirmed but everything is observed. And this creates a curious effect. The more he tries to keep his personal life out of the spotlight, the more the public tries to bring it to the center of attention. After so many criticisms, controversies, and questions, Byeon Seok now reaches the most decisive point of his career. And this moment is accompanied by a name that, by itself, already carries enormous weight in the industry: IU. Acting alongside her isn't just another job, it's a showcase. An opportunity to show, once and for all, if he truly deserves the space he has conquered, or if the criticisms were well-founded. Expectations are high, not just from fans, but from the entire industry, which now watches his every move with even more attention, because this project can change everything. If he delivers a convincing, emotional, and memorable performance, the narrative could flip completely. The controversies are left behind, the criticisms lose strength, and he solidifies himself as a strong name among the protagonists of the new generation. But if it doesn't work, the effect could be the opposite. The doubts return with more force, and what was once a question could transform into an image that is difficult to reverse. In the end, it's not just about a drama, it's about positioning, about how the public will see Byeon Seok from now on. From a promise surrounded by controversies, to a consolidated star, or the opposite. And now, everything depends on the next step.